veteran. We are located in the Northwestern Michigan College Library. The interviewee is Rita Ferquelli. Operating the camera and other equipment is Scott Thomas, and Heather Springstead is taking the notes. And can you tell me when you were born, sir?
September 9th, 1925.
And you served in World War II.
Yes.
What was your rank?
Pharmacist third class.
Okay. And where did you serve?
Both the Atlantic and Pacific area.
Okay. And now we will begin segment 2. This is just some stuff under the category of jogging your memory, so very basics. Scott already told me you were drafted. Is that correct?
No, I enlisted.
You enlisted. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And where were you living at the time?
Maple City, Michigan.
So why did you join?
Quite a story. The year before, I was going to school in Leland, and we won the state championship in basketball. And because of the war being on, gas and transportation was limited because of the war. Everything was under control of the government, so
Right.
all of our travel was cut short. All of our basketball, football, and baseball was local. And because I love sports, and I knew we wouldn't be able to, I wasn't patriotic. I just wanted to go in service because it was better than sitting in school and not doing anything else.
You wanted to have something to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why did you pick the service branch you joined?
The branch?
Mm-hmm.
I had two brothers that were already in the Army, and I thought the family should be spread out.
Okay. Do you recall your first days in service?
Very vividly.
Very vividly. You want to tell us about those maybe just a little bit?
The basic thing was I'd been out of Michigan, away from home one time, and that was when I was 13. I went to Brunerdale Seminary in Canton, Ohio to be a priest, and that didn't pan out. So when I came back home, I've lost my train of thought. I was thinking of being a priest now.
That's okay. I was just asking how your first days of service went. You said you came back, and
it was rough because it was in the Great Lakes training facility, and there was such a mob scene because so many people were being drafted and volunteered. So it was more or less, like I say, a mob scene.
Right.
Things were all
a little chaotic.
Yeah, balled up. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Can you tell us about your boot camp, your training experience? You were sort of just getting into that.
The thing I can remember most was the training on seamanship, knots, firing detail, and of course KP.
Okay.
But it was all rolled in together. I mean, they kept us busy, practically doing nothing but keeping you busy because we had to be busy.
Yeah. Do you remember your instructors?
No.
No. How did you get through it?
I knew that everybody else was going through the same thing I was, so it was a case, like I said, I love sports, and it was one of the things that being in a group didn't bother me.
Okay, we're going to the next segment now, and it's about your experiences, so a little more in depth. Which wars did you serve in? Would be World War II, and that's the only one, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And where exactly did you go?
From boot camp, I went to Corps School in Great Lakes to be a Navy medic. There I went to Annapolis, Maryland, at the Naval Hospital in Annapolis. And then Long Island, New York, St. Albans Naval Hospital. And from there to Greenock, Scotland. And from there to, well, any place. There was a place in England. Greenock, Scotland, Ireland, and then England. We had a base in Ireland for just a short time because the hospital that we were going to in England wasn't completed. After being at the hospital, part of our unit went into Normandy on the 9th of June to retrieve the wounded off the beach, bring them back to England to our hospital and to other hospitals too. And then when that was finished, most of the Navy medics that I was with was sent to California, and we took training with the Marines to be assigned to Marine Corps as Navy medics, because the Marine Corps didn't have any medics of their own.
Of all those different places you just mentioned,
That was only the few.
a few of them, were your arrivals at any of them more memorable than the others? Is there anything that stands out?
I think St. Albans Hospital was where I had more hands-on training, hospital work.
So the next question is, what was your job or assignment?
General orderly in a naval hospital, which was anything from giving shots to changing bandages, TPR.
Did you see any combat?
Just mentioned about getting the wounded off the beach. I don't think anybody was shooting at me per se, personally, but we were being strafed, and that is the extent of my combat. That was plenty.
Were there many casualties in your unit?
Not in my unit itself, just the wounded that we took off the beach.
Right. Can you tell me a couple of your most memorable experiences?
I think riding the Typhoon off Okinawa. I was on this one ship, and it was the roughest sea I'd ever been in. Its ship stood on its stern and then the bow and back and forth and side to side. And also pulling into Sasebo, Japan, the wharf that we pulled into, the jetty, there were just thousands of Japanese people on their hands and knees and their forehead on the pier, knowing that we were the new god. The emperor was no more, you know. Those two were quite vivid.
Were you ever a prisoner of war?
No.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Personal Naval Unit Commendation Medal, and the Combat Action Ribbon, and the Good Conduct Medal. And the others were for being in different places.
So how did you get them, or what were they for, if you could elaborate just a bit?
In the unit I was with, the Snag 56 in England, the whole unit was awarded the Naval Unit Commendation for the job we did. And the Combat Action Ribbon was during the time that we evacuated the wounded off the beachhead. It was classed as actual combat.
Did you ever sustain any injuries?
Only in softball.
Softball?
Of all things, yeah.
Well, that's good though. This next segment is about your life, so it might be a little personal. If you don't feel comfortable with anything, you can just let us know. How did you stay in touch with your family?
Through normal letters. When I was in the States, a couple phone calls, but it was mainly cards and letters.
Mm-hmm. What was the food like?
Most of it was real good. I was raised on a farm, and you learn to eat just about anything, so food didn't bother me. I could always get enough food to keep me going.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Only one place that we were kind of short, and that was when we were in the Pacific. They didn't have as much refrigeration as you would normally have, and we had quite a few troops on. And the one thing they always did have was Spam, and that's one One type of food I can do without.
Not your favorite?
No.
Did you feel pressure or stress?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Understandable. Was there something special you did for good luck?
Not really. I just figured that if your time was up, it was up.
How did people entertain themselves?
Cards, sports. In England, there was dates. Just, I would say, what a normal person would do, whether they were in the service or not, you know.
Were there any entertainers?
None of the big names of any of the places I was at.
What did you do when on leave?
If I was near home, of course, I went home. In California, we went to Mexico and in the general vicinity of Oceanside, California.
Where did you travel while in the service? I know you already mentioned some places.
The first part, yeah.
Yeah.
The ship I was on covered just about, it was APA 132, USS Barnwell, covered about, I would say 2/3 of the Pacific, the different islands and all that we were at. As far south as Australia and as far north as Japan.
What were some of the pranks that you or others would pull?
I think the worst was hot foot.
Do you want to elaborate on that, please?
Usually it was with a book matches that you would, if somebody was sleeping on a bench or something, they would take a book match or two and put it in between the sole of the shoe and the bunion part of the shoe where it fits pretty tight. They put the head of the match in there, and unlike the other part, when the head went off, you had a hot foot. That was just one of them.
Just one of them. Did you bring any photographs with you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, that's fine. The next questions are going to be what you did after your service time. Do you recall the day your service ended?
November 28th, 1945.
Anything specific about that?
Yeah, I was given a total of $31 and some odd cents to go from Chicago to Traverse City, Michigan.
So the next question is, where were you? You were in Chicago when?
When I was discharged, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterward?
Immediately afterwards, I started looking for a job and found a job quite quick.
And do you care to tell us where that was or what that was?
Munson Medical Center, because
Okay.
I was a medic. They had, and while they were expanding then too.
Okay. Was your education supported by the GI Bill?
I never used the GI Bill.
No? Okay. Did you make any close friendships while in the service?
Close, but not lasting. Christmas cards for about 4 or 5 years, and then they had their circle of friends, and each went their own way.
Did you join a veterans organization?
Yes, the VFW and Marine Corps League.
Okay. This is our next and final section. It's just some later years and closing questions. What did you go on to do as a career after the war? You just said you got a job at Munson.
Mainly in sales. I worked in, I think my first job was, it was in Sault Ste. Marie. Trying to think of the laundry. It was the Progress Laundry. They had the ships coming through the locks, and he hired me on as a foreman in the laundry to be sure that all the ships coming through had their laundry ready and to be picked up when they came back from the upper lakes.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Well, war is hell. there's no two ways about it. If I had to do what I did before over again, yes, I would, but I wouldn't recommend it to any of my friends. I did recommend it to one of my nephews, and he went to Vietnam and was killed, so I don't recommend it anymore.
Do you attend reunions?
Just the VFW.
How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I think it affected me in many different ways, but I put a finger on it, it'd be hard to tell. I think I grew up because I went in when I was 17 and knew more than my dad when I went in. When I got back out, I found out he was pretty smart.
Is there anything you would like to add? Any experiences, any lighter
Personal.
moments, anything personal?
Just the great feeling it was to get my discharge papers and know I was heading home. That was, like I say, the 28th of November, 45.
That wraps up our interview. If there's nothing else you would like to add, and we thank you so very much for coming in and making time to do this.
My pleasure.
And that is all we have for this interview with Mr. Don Gauthier.
I hadn't thought about that.
That's all right. We have something else to add that has been brought to our attention that we found would be interesting, so he has something else to tell us. Go ahead.
Before I went to the Pacific, all mail at that time was being, what do you call it, blacked out. Can't think of the word. But anyhow, to let my family know where I had been, not where I was going, because we never knew where we were going, but after we'd leave, like Hawaii or Saipan or Tinian or Guam, I had a list of all the cigarettes that I knew, and each cigarette stood for Hawaii, Japan, and when I'd write a letter, I'd say, I just had my last pack of Marlboros or Pall Malls, or, and that was my way, letting my family know where I was at, where I had been, but not where I was going.
Because you personally, did they not tell you guys where you were going either?
Well, yeah,
so,
the word I was trying to think of was censored. Our mail was, you couldn't seal the letter when you mailed it.
Right.
Everything was censored.
So you had to...
So you had to find ways around it, and I think I wasn't the only one. I know I wasn't. Others had different cities, like they might say, remember that good time we had in Philadelphia or something, and that meant that they had just left Hawaii or Japan or wherever.
Do you think it gave your family some comfort knowing
to know where we had
where
been?
You'd been?
Oh, sure. I wish I had those letters. I don't, though. I mean, all the islands I was in the Pacific, I couldn't name them all because we did landings, combat landings into many different places for practice for the Marines and for us, going off the ship, getting back on the ship.
I have another quick question, if you don't mind. What did you miss most while you were away? What was the hardest thing to be away from? Or the hardest person?
Female companionship, especially aboard ship.
Did you leave someone behind, or just female companionship in general?
No, I was married when I went to the Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah. My firstborn was born when I was near Japan.
So you weren't there for that?
I wasn't there.
Was that very difficult?
Well, it wasn't for me, it was for my wife, yeah.
Okay. So how old was your child when you got to see it the first time?
He was just 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so it hadn't been that long.
All right, I think we're all set this time.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.